And we're back, InForm Nation. Glad that you're joining us once again here for episode 23 on the InForm Fitness Podcast, 20 Minutes with Adam Zickerman and friends. For those joining us for the very first time, let's go around the horn and introduce everybody. I'm Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and a client of InForm Fitness. And joining me here in person at the Inbound studio is co-owner and general manager of the Burbank InForm Fitness location, Sheila Melody. Sheila, nice to see you three-dimensionally instead of 2D via Skype nowadays. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, this is fun.
And still in boring old 2D through the magic of Skype is general manager of the Manhattan location, Mike Rogers, and the founder of InForm Fitness, New York Times bestselling author, Power of 10, the once-a-week slow-motion fitness revolution, also affectionately known as the Guru, Adam Zickerman. What's up, fellas?
Hey.
I've never called him the Guru.
Never called him? No, ever?
I don't like it. Matter of fact,
then I'm going to start calling you now the Guru.
Matter of fact, when Mike is booking some guests on our one of our podcast episodes, he in his letters he writes, and he refers to me as his boss. I meant to talk to Mike about that, saying, "Don't refer to me as your boss. I don't refer to me as your I don't know,
as your superior."
Exactly.
Yes. Superior.
Much better.
The prime minister of InForm Fitness.
All right, the boss, the founder,
colleague,
Adam.
His Highness.
You can refer to me
You're
as
asking
your
me to-
colleague and the
okay,
founder
okay.
of InForm Fitness.
Okay, you're gonna go there. Okay.
There he is, colleague and founder.
You're gonna wish I said boss next time.
All right. Well, the bosses have been having problems with his back, or at least he has in the past. And here in episode 23, we're going to refer back to a blog post of yours, Adam, from June of last year, 2016, Back Spasms from Exercise, which we'll have a link to in the show notes, of course, if you'd like to read them. In the blog post, Adam, you offer up a confession, and you mention a back injury that you suffered as a kid. Now, we'll get to that confession in just a moment, but let's start with the injury that you suffered. What caused the injury back many, 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 many decades ago?
Yeah, I was a teenager, and I don't know exactly what caused the injury. I think it was a combination of sports and being active, but I also had this weird obsession about jumping staircases. and when I think back on my childhood life, I really think that my back injury was from like trying to jump like down 10 stairs or 15 stairs. I tried to keep increasing the amount of stairs I can jump.
I did the same stuff. I really did.
You probably hit your head one time, and that's why your memory is important.
Yeah. Or twice.
But I do remember where it manifested itself. I mean, it could have been the stairs. When the back went out, when the back problem happened, I didn't feel it right away. It was during actually a basketball game. I was a point guard, and up until that point, I was a pretty good point guard, you know. And at this particular game, I couldn't cut to my left without, and there was no pain. I was very slow cutting to the left, and the ball kept getting stolen from me at midcourt. And my father was watching the game, was like that, and my coach and everybody was like, "That's very unusual for Adam to get the ball just taken from him like that every time he brings the ball up." And it was that night that all of a sudden the back pain started. So I've been saying for years that I think it was the basketball game that I hurt my back, but very likely it was probably something before that led up to it. And I'm thinking that crazy idea I had about jumping off of staircases.
So 35, 40 years ago is when this probably began.
Yeah, the symptoms were numbness in my left leg, in my right leg, radiating down my leg. I couldn't bend at all. I couldn't bend at my waist at all. I couldn't sit for more than a couple of minutes without the pain. I had to stand or lie down.
Wow. As a kid?
I was a kid, and it was and my leg, the back of my leg, was in a lot of pain and numb at the same time. My calf was numb, and to this day, there is slight numbness to my right calf compared to my left calf.
Wow.
I can feel some sensation, but it's definitely dulled. To this day, it's never recovered. So there's probably a little bit of nerve damage back then.
So did you go to the doctor and find out what exactly happened?
So we go to a doctor, and remember, I'm 11, right? And when you have these symptoms as an adult, right away they say, let's look at the back. But as a child, the last thing they were thinking about was a nerve compression of a herniated disc. So they were looking for everything else, including tumors of the spine.
Wow.
Oh my god.
So there was a point there that I was meeting with oncologists and getting tests at NYU, New York University Medical Center, to test for everything but a herniated disc. And when they eliminated all those things, they said, could this kid have a herniated disc? And they performed a procedure called a myelogram, which is a crazy procedure where they inject a dye into your spinal column and they turn you upside down on a table, literally upside down, and let the dye kind of go down the spine, or really up the spine, right? And when they see the fluid, this dye that they inject into your spinal column, when they see that dye deviate to the right or the left, that's where the herniation is. And that's how they were able to determine disc herniations back in the day, in the 70s. They still do that procedure, but much less so.
Sounds archaic.
So a myelogram is more or less an archaic methodology now. MRIs have pretty much taken over that. So when they saw the fact that I had a disc herniation, they were like, holy cow. And I had surgery. By a neurosurgeon. The surgery is called a laminectomy, and part of the spine vertebrae, there is something called the lamina. And the lamina was removed to pretty much reduce the pressure that was being pushed against it by the disc pushing the nerve into the lamina. So they took away the lamina, no more pressure against the nerve, and the pain went away. But there was a compromise there. There was a structural compromise done when you remove structure from your vertebrae. So ever since that surgery, I've been able to bend and I've been able to play all my sports, and I've lived a fairly normal life. However, probably 10 years into post-surgery, I would start getting back spasms. These horrible, horrible, bring you down to your knees, can't move, and if you breathe, you go into another spasm. It's almost like being hooked up to a car battery, and every time you sit and you're kidnapped, and every time you say something wrong, they hit the switch and you're shocked. That's what a back spasm is, where there are sometimes I would be suffering spasms, and if I try to move out of my position, I would go right back into position. It just nonstop, spasm after spasm after spasm. And this can go on for hours. They're excruciating. It's literally like being shocked.
Sounds like torture.
It's very painful.
And this is something you experienced in your 20s now, these back spasms?
I've been experiencing those from my 20s up until now.
Tim, honestly, I've seen Adam over the years about a half a dozen times during the middle of a work day. It kind of come out of nowhere. Maybe, I don't know if he worked out earlier that day or whatever, but like I've seen him have to go down to the ground and put a tennis ball on his, just lay down on a tennis ball and stuff like that. It's
those are for the good ones.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they got so bad that I would literally get nauseated and want to vomit.
Wow.
Oh my
pain
goodness.
is just that, and it's just not. It's relentless. It doesn't go away. And the only thing that makes it better is time. I mean, a couple of days on my back, it finally starts to subside. I also take Flexerol, which is a muscle relaxant, and that seems to take the edge off when things are really bad. All right, so that's the history.
Let's fast forward a few years now, right? Because Adam, let's jump to the confession now. Because I'll tell you, if I'm listening to this and I'm hearing you, Adam Zickerman, the founder of InForm Fitness, suffering from back spasms, my first question, honestly, is: well, did that happen as a result of high intensity strength training?
No, definitely not. Although I've tweaked it during workouts. The confession that you're referring to, this blog that I wrote. I was doing leg press and I was pushing myself. I set a new weight. It was a new seat setting that put a little more strain on my back, apparently. I was training myself and my thought went somewhere else and my hips lifted a little bit, and all they have to do is lift a millimeter. And bam, I felt something. It wasn't the spasm, but I felt something. I was like, oh boy. Because usually you feel something and then it just progressively gets worse. And I know I'm in for it. Like, sometimes you feel that pain. I've been dealing with this for so long in my life. You feel that initial pain and you say to yourself, okay, 5 more hours from now, I'm going to be on my back. I got to get my ass home, put that ice pack on, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
And of course, it comes. It does come more. And it came this last time, and this was about less than a year ago.
I remember we were recording some podcasts last year, and you were really struggling with your back during one of those episodes that we had. So this happened. That's your confession, Adam, in your blog post was
the
that,
confession is, here I am, exercise, quote-unquote, guru.
acquaintance, coworker,
with a
colleague.
bad back, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like being an obese nutritionist or something.
They're out there.
And I interviewed one recently, not to change the subject, but somebody came in looking for, maybe some referrals, nutrition referrals, and she was overweight. I was like, come on.
So here you are, again, like we said, founder of InForm Fitness, on one of your machines. You just lost focus. And maybe one of the mistakes you made, I guess, was training yourself and someone not watching you as closely as all of the trainers at InForm Fitness do with their clients, and this happened. So there's that confession. So since this incident, Adam, that you mentioned in your blog post, have you had any back spasms?
No, I haven't. And I think there are a couple of reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
One reason we'll talk about now, and another reason we'll talk about in another episode of our podcast.
Real quick, Adam, is this the longest period you've gone without a back spasm?
I'm approaching the longest period I've gone without a back spasm right now. As the last 5 years, I've been getting about maybe 2 or 3 back spasms a year. Now it's been about a year since I've had one. When I was in my 20s, I only got one a year. The difference between when I was in my 20s and recently was they came more often and they healed a lot slower when I got older. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I'd get one, a couple of days later, back to new. Now, been lingering. My wife has been saying, wow, Adam, it just seems like your back is always hurting now, always crooked. Even when I wasn't in spasm, my posture was just off. I haven't, and it was always like this, I would say I would give it like a 4 out of 10 in terms of pain, just ongoing. So I was always feeling something in my back at a level 4. Spasms are a 10 plus. All right. Wow. When I'm about to go into spasm, sometimes there's an 8 and 7. I can go to work with a 7 and an 8 and deal with it. And I kept saying, this is muscular. This is neuromuscular. This is not structural. I know it. I know my body. I know an MRI is not it's going to be what they say in medicine. It's going to be unremarkable. It's not going to show much of anything. But of course, since they were lasting longer and becoming more frequent, I was like, what do I have to lose? Go get an MRI. What's the big deal? So I got it. And I got it about a year ago. And it showed some slight herniations, grade 1, vertebrate slippage. But there are MRIs out there that show a lot worse, and the patient is asymptomatic and they don't have any back problems. And there are people that don't show anything that have severe back problems. So my MRI was basically unremarkable, and it didn't indicate anything major that would be causing all these spasms. Let's put it that way. So I was frustrated. I trained people day in and day out with safe exercise, and I strengthened their lower back. And there's that expression, cobbler's children don't have any shoes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's another confession. I was not doing my back exercises that I keep imploring my patients to do or clients to do that regular back extension, back strengthening exercise. And I wasn't doing any follow-up type of work like pelvic tilts, hip thrust, things that could create movement of that hip and lower back area. And I was working all the time. I was sitting. I was commuting, long commutes, and I really wasn't doing what I thought I should be doing. So I just couldn't take it anymore. After the MRI came back and showed that there was nothing really to write home about, I said, you know what? I just got to start taking care of myself. I was doing all the major exercises, the leg presses and the chest presses and, all the things that guys like to do. But I was ignoring the lower back. So I've been doing that regularly now, absolutely regularly for the last year. And I have to say, especially in the last 4 or 5 months, I am, for the first time since I'm in my 20s, I can say that I don't feel my back anymore. I don't feel that thing there that's been following me around like a black cloud.
Wow.
I have literally no pain in my low back, and it hasn't been this way for quite a while now, knock on wood, because it can come at any time. But I don't remember the last time I can say I've had no pain in my lower back.
And when you
I've
say
been keeping it at bay at a
consistently,
3 and a 4 for months at a time. I can keep it at a 3 or 4. But one long airplane ride or car ride, and I'm back to a 5 and 6. Or funny enough, when I would do sports, it would feel better. So that movement, there's something to that movement that would make it feel better. I remember going skiing and thinking to myself, I don't know if this is a good idea, dude. I know you love skiing, but maybe it's time to hang up the bindings. And well, I went, and I'm telling you, they felt better. My back would feel better after something like that. Or long bike rides, my back would feel better. So there was something to that movement, which is all these things together made me say, let's take care of your back finally, Adam. Get on that low back extension machine on a regular basis. Do your pelvic tilts. I would ice my back on a regular basis. I'd get massages on a regular basis. And here I am.
and now you say on a regular basis. Are you talking weekly? Weekly, you're doing a routine that supports your back.
Yes, weekly and daily. The weekly thing is the high intense low back extensions. The daily is I would ice it once a day for 20 minutes or so. I would do pelvic tilts. I would do some light stretches. And I would also on a weekly basis, I'd have some manual therapy, some deep tissue massage. And it's the combination thereof. And, I've been doing a lot of things, so it's hard to know which one of those things is actually the answer. It's probably the combination. And the reason we're doing this podcast, this episode of the podcast right now is because, I think I'm onto something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you see a very dramatic change.
Yeah, and Mike has been also doing a lot of this stuff recently with his patients or clients. And
the thing is, I think all around health. This is from my experience, and I've talked to chiropractors and physical therapists and orthopedists, and we've read lots of books on the matter, and I've taken other courses in fitness, and what I've learned is there is our weekly exercise that we need to do, for our strengthening. And we found a nice, safe, efficient way of doing that. But, Adam mentioned some daily exercises, and I've prescribed very, very simple little things that take about 5 minutes on a daily basis. And people who are compliant to these little things, and these are just mobility exercises, activation of the muscles, nothing intense at all. And they involve little pelvic tilts, whether you're laying down on your back or you could be on all fours. It's like a child pose, bird dog, some little glute bridge, leg raises type of things, and very light stretches of the hamstrings and calves. And I found unbelievable results from people in addition to their workouts that they come for once a week. And the ones that are compliant, doing it 3, 4 or more times a week, within 2 weeks, they're feeling a lot better. So I think the formula involves some small daily exercises as well.
And in addition to that, Mike, too, I'll just speak for myself. I had some lower back issues, and when I first started at InForm Fitness, the leg press was really giving me some problems. And Ann Kirkland, one of the trainers at the Burbank location, went in and made some adjustments to how I was sitting in the leg press. And I put something behind my back, I believe.
Lumbar pad. Ann has an additional certification in low back.
And immediately fixed whatever issues I was having with the leg press. So you do the same thing there, I'm sure, in New York as well. People come in.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
If you're in the wrong position, things are not going to be good no matter where you are. And that's,
right.
I think, the benefit to being here is that we're this one-on-one, the slow motion. We have time to sort of assess and see what's going on. First of all, to make sure that the seat position is correct, and then to and to monitor your form throughout the set.
That's right. And that's what happened to me, as I mentioned a few moments ago, as I was on the leg press, having a few issues with my back, just a few minor adjustments from my trainer, and the back pain went away. Hey, guys, as you can tell by the music, our 20 minutes allotted for this episode is up, so it's time for us to wrap it up. It also means that for you on the other side of the speakers, if you began your high-intensity strength training workout at an InForm Fitness when we began this episode, you too would be wrapping it up for the entire week. Now, you'll be wiped out, but you'd be done, and you can begin enjoying your rest and recovery to prepare for next week's workout. And we'll do the same here at the InForm Fitness Podcast. We are going to continue our talk regarding back pain. We'll also be joined by Dr. Louis Fierro, a chiropractor who works with Adam in the InForm Fitness Active Rehabilitation Program. Dr. Lou will offer up his suggestions and solutions for those experiencing back pain of their own. Plus, we'll dive into the psychological aspects of a negative diagnosis, such as a back problem, and how that alone can prolong an illness or an injury. We'll share some interesting data that supports the notion that a simple attitude adjustment can change the course of your rehabilitation. Hey, if you'd like to give this workout a try for yourself, to find an InForm Fitness location nearest you, just visit informfitness.com. Now, at the time of this recording, we have locations in Manhattan, Port Washington, Denville, Burbank, Boulder, Leesburg, and Reston. And if you're not near an InForm Fitness location, you can always pick up Adam's book, Power of 10, the once-a-week slow-motion fitness revolution. Included in Adam's book are several exercises that support this protocol that you can actually perform on your own at a gym nearest you. Hey, we have a lot planned here at the InForm Fitness Podcast that we can't wait to share with you. In the next few weeks, we'll be speaking with Gretchen Rubin from the award-winning Happier podcast. We'll also be talking to Dr. Martin Gabala, author of The 1 Minute Workout. And in another episode, Adam will be discussing a diet plan that, in his words, has changed his life. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, chiropractor Dr. Lou Fierro joins us next week. For Sheila Melody, Mike Rogers, and Adam Zickerman of InForm Fitness, I'm Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network.